Marbles Lights Out is a game that combines artwork, marbles, and destruction. Created out of boredom from being grounded during my elementary school years, this game turned out to be one of my masterpieces, and it only requires 4 key components. The first one, and the biggest one, is probably a little hard to find, is a particular kind of Lite Brite box. It has to have this lip at the bottom, which is much wider than it is at the top. The newer ones seem to lack that because the top and bottom are the same. And in addition, it also has to be at a 60-degree angle, or at least that's what my trigonometry is telling me. Yeah, arctangent function, gotta love it. And being a Lite Brite box, it also happens to require a lot of its lights that come with it. These are just, well, your singles, and they're the only types that are allowed for this particular game. You cannot use those combination ones, or they're all grouped together. These are the singles, and only the singles. Being a marble game, well, I think you can probably figure out what these are. These are just your standard glass marbles that are about 1 centimeter in diameter, and there's exactly 100 of them. As you can probably tell by the 5x4 grid with 5 in each node. What's with the 2 big marbles? Those are 2 centimeters in diameter, and they're also not exactly required, but they are recommended if you want to use any easy difficulty settings. And last but not least, you need a plain old-fashioned shade of copier paper. Yeah, copier paper. Why not use the stuff that comes with this? Easy. This is more plentiful, it's cheaper, and it works just the same. So how do you play the game? I'll explain that next. Before the destruction can begin, thus the main game, there has to be some construction. And that's where this piece of paper comes in. Of course, you can't just throw it on there and just call it good to go, or just throw it in there kind of haphazard, random, or whatnot. You actually have to put in some effort to center it. First, I'm going to grab some lights so I can do so from these standard Lite Brite lights. And to center it, well, first you cannot have any of this opening or paper bulging out like that. You cannot have that happen. So you have to have it a little bit lower than that, and you also have to have it centered. So what's the best way to center it? Well, first note the size of this hole right here. You got the one here, you got a little bit onto that one, and you got mostly that one covered. It's this one that's mostly covered that's key. If the top part here looks pretty much the same as it is on the bottom, for which it isn't quite there, make a small adjustment. You have to be within like a millimeter or something. So that looks the same. Now we'll do the same on the other side. Does this side look the same as that? No, it isn't. It needs to go to the left just a tad. And nope, still a little more. It does take some adjusting, and you really have to be precise on this. Okay. Yeah, I'd have to say that's close enough. In that case, well, you also have to remember the 0 point. That part right there marks exactly the 0 point. You can go 1, 2, 3, 4 below that, and also the same up above, 4 above. The higher the starting point is for this initial part, the harder the game will end up being. I'm going to go kind of in the middle, medium difficulty in a sense. And I'm going to mark one right there. Okay, and now I need to pull on the paper a little bit because you've got to get rid of the kinks and stuff. And kind of anchor it in the same way at the same position. Why is that inconsistent? There we go, that's better. Of course, without the Lite Brite paper that comes with it, it's kind of hard to tell where all the holes are. But that will pretty much get you a good start. Now, there are 3 requirements in your design. First, you must have a floor right here. Just to demonstrate that, I'm going to get another red and another pink. The minimum allowed spacing is what I call 2. This is 2. This is the minimum allowed. Of course, if you want, you can also go with a 1 like this. This is what I call 1 for the spacing. So I'm going to complete the floor. And one thing you might be noticing, what's with this clock here? Well, because I use heavy use of time lapse, because this game takes like 90 minutes to even 2 hours to finish, or 60 minutes if you got a simpler design. Well, I'm going to be using that so you can get an idea on the sense of time scales that's going by for this particular game. Not to mention the 20x time lapses and 30x near the end. Yeah, I know, big multipliers. And so that supposedly completes the floor, except for one thing that you could consider. First, I want to get 2 more whites. White, white. I forgot about that one. One thing that's considered is, well, you can pluck one right at the very edge over there and do the same on the opposite side. If you centered it properly, you'll have at least half of the light going through the paper. At least half of it. In this case, it's more like 3/4. However, just for reference, the minimum allowed for the innermost part is right here. From this part right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inward is as far as you can go. Same goes on the other side. Of course, it doesn't have to be consistent pattern either. You can have it so that it's this way on here and you have 4 over here, but you can't have more than 5 inward on either side. Now there's a grand total or separation, but that's just on each side individually. And of course, you don't have to use any particular colors at all, because color in this game makes absolutely no difference. What does is the positions of the lights and their holes. However, there's another thing to consider, and that's what I call the guard. What's the guard? Well, I'll do it just so you can see. Now, this over here is what I call the guard. The reason is simple. It prevents marbles from going off over in this direction. But like the floor, there has to be a minimum spacing of 2. And this is the lowest allowed point for the guard stop. But you can also go another one higher if you wanted, but it doesn't really have any much significant use. But I do it anyway. And you have to have the guard on both sides. And as you're doing it, pull on the paper a little bit so that way you get rid of that tension and so it doesn't curl up like you saw during the initial introduction part not too long ago. Some of that warping is expected, but well, it's not exactly critical to get rid of all of it, that is. And that's otherwise the guard all full. If you did it well, you did the centering well, this side and this side should be pretty much identical. Now, for the third requirement. You must have what I call a cage. I'll make 1 and 2 on both sides, just for demonstration. So, the time lapse. And what do you know, I accidentally put one in the wrong hole. When that happens, just take a standard pencil and just X it off. So, basically, if you don't want to ever use that hole, you just exit off. Because that is actually a requirement as per the rules. You must have it X'd off. So what exactly is a cage then? Well, I'm just about done here. It looks like I'm short on pink still. So, what exactly is a cage? Well, I put a marble in there, and as I drop a marble, it ain't going to be able to get into there because you got the lights in the way. And if I had marbles pushing on over here, it ain't going to get in the way because that's in the way. Basically, a cage is where there's absolutely no way for any marble to get in there, aside from maybe doing this. But that's not really advantageous. Of course, yes, that is actually allowed in the game, but it's not really advantages. You must have a minimum of 2 cages. A minimum of 2. The more you have, the harder the difficulty is. Finish this off. And that's otherwise it for that. That's the required cages. Now everything from this point onward is entirely up to you. If you want to make it really fancy with a lot of neat designs, go for it. If you want to have weird little dit-dats all over the place like a pachinko game, go for it. All the design is all up to you, entirely. But what I'm going to do is, if you look closely, this looks like a chair, and this looks like a chair. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a table, like right in here. This should be the center. And, well, I'll just time-lapse the design, a pretty high multiplier, just so you can see what I'm trying to do. Let's see, I should make the table white. And so that otherwise completes the design. Once I get this last one in, there it goes. This is the complete design. You might have noticed a few more X's, like right there and right there, that I ended up missing on. Don't you love missing? The last thing you need to do before you start anything is push all these lights in, make sure they're all secure. There may be a few loose ones here and there, but that can happen. But for the most part, just get them in. Don't need the pencil anymore. Now I need to cage some marbles. And the main game is about to begin. I'll use these dark ones of mine as the caged ones. So, the object of the game is actually very simple. At the end, you must have it so that absolutely no marbles are up in this area at all. They all have to be down here or in your stock over here. Of course, these 2 big ones are a special use, so I don't need them. I don't need the lights anymore, except for those that are already present in there. And, well, I guess from there, that begins the main game. Oh yeah, there's one other thing that I must note. This point right here, remember how it was a 0 point? The lowest you're allowed to go is 10 down. So this would be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 right there. So anything at this point and lower is actually disallowed. Actually, it was this point is the threshold. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yeah. This is the lowest allowed point. Anything lower than that is not allowed. Sorry about the confusion there. It does happen. You might be thinking, okay, wouldn't this be a cage? Nope, it's not. That's because this area is wide open. Now, what are you supposed to do? Well, you probably remember that demonstration, right, where you just drop a marble, place it, and drop it. Well, there's one thing that you never do. You throw it at the thing and hope stuff falls. You are totally disallowed from doing that. In fact, the closest you can get to that is the marble's diameter plus about 50%. So I could drop it from here and it's perfectly legal. No problems there. It's allowed by the game's rules. Another thing you can do is, even though it's kind of not really advantageous, you don't have to always have it at the very top. You can place them like right here, for example. Like that's going to do any use, but it's just for demonstration. Of course, you don't always have to have them drop straight down like that either. You can also roll them a little. To do that, you position your thumb like so and release it. That's how you get an angled shot. That's also allowed. So then, well, what are you supposed to do then, besides just drop marbles? Well, the actual object of the game, as I stated, is to get as many marbles up, all these marbles in here, gone. Anything that falls in here like these, always keep them there. Do not touch them. And if a light happens to loosen at this point, leave it alone. Because otherwise you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. And speaking of which, if you think it's an advantage doing that, gives yourself an extra advantage, go ahead and place a marble all you want. But that's, of course, if you feel it gives you an advantage. Hey, what do you know? Some marbles fell down here. What do you do with these? Leave them alone. You do not touch them. Yes, your stock here will diminish real fast, especially early on. As you can tell, it's kind of rapid fire here too. Just keep dropping marbles. Miss. Yeah, I missed picking up the marble, as you probably saw. So then what about the lights then? What do you do with those? Well, when I get one loosened enough, I'll explain. Except these over there need to cooperate. So sometimes if you want, you can use an offset angle like this, have it bounce off that one and bounce off over there. That's allowed, if you can make use of that trick, that is. Even marbles out and too far out. This is your basic one, here's another one out a little more. Even these you cannot take. Hey, what do you know? That light came out. In this case, if it falls down in here, you leave it alone, just like all these other marbles. There is actually an exception with these marbles down here, but I'll have to get to that quite a ways from now, if it actually happens. And yes, I have actually broken through to that, so I have a cage wide open now. Hey, what do you know? Lights came out here. What do you do with these? Well, in this case, these are yours. You keep them. No, don't put them back in there. That's not always wise doing it. In fact, it rarely ever is. Trust me, I've actually had to put lights in here to give myself an advantage, but I'll cover that later on if I do run into such a case of that happening. So how do you get a light out the effective way? All you gotta do is you jiggle it. You get it on the left side, and you get it on the right. Here it's facing on the right, get it on the right. Now you get it on the left, and eventually you'll wiggle it loose. That's how you get a light out. And any marbles that do fall down here into here, you get to keep them, much like those lights. Now it's just a matter of spending all these, like 1,000 drops or something, just to get marbles out of here. And what do you know, one of those black ones that were originally caged is now gone. Isn't that nice? However, that isn't going to do any good at the moment, because you need to get all of these marbles out. Not just these caged ones, but every single one of them. Got some pretty nice marbles here, don't I? I like this bluish one here. Well, it's kind of bluish. If you look at it, get in the right light just right, yeah, you can see it's bluish. That one's one of my favorites. Critical. What do you know? Another light. Keep it. It's yours to keep. And like I said, you'll need them before, or for later, I mean. And one thing to consider is, well, this takes a long time, so I'm going to run time lapse for quite a bit. I'm going to start slow. I'm going to start with a low multiplier on the time and work up until I run into something that needs attention. And yes, these things can get stacked really high, even 6 times 6 high. Right now these are at 3. As you can probably tell, I knocked out another cage here and been fighting this light that seems to be really, really stubborn. And this kind of opened up here. What is this all about? Well, if the guards open up, leave it alone. It actually kind of helps to give you an extra advantage. Jiggling this light here like crazy and just don't want to go. And you might also notice that my stock's gotten quite low, but it's been kind of holding steady. It's been going up and down a little bit here and there, but it's pretty steady. What do you know, 25 lights. And if you look at the very bottom of the video constantly, you can keep a constant status on how many lights I knocked out, along with the time multiplier for the intensity of the time lapse. Sometimes placing a marble there can give you that extra forced and focused bash at it. Ooh. Went it right straight out. Not easy to get to. This one's right on the edge. But at least from fighting this thing, I've been able to get all this in there. Or at least weaken the yellow cage. There goes that one. Hey, another double. Got 2 lights in one. 27. You might have noticed that updated at the bottom. Hey, what do you know? I also got one of these black ones freed. Ain't that nice? But I got a long way to go. I'm only just starting. Starting to see why it's called Marbles Lights Out? Interesting. I think I might have an advantage if I make use of one of these lights I just took out and plug up one of these holes. Now you might be thinking, okay, how is that advantageous? Well, it is under certain circumstances, and only under certain circumstances. In this case, you don't have to have them all the way in either. But if you want to plug it in as much as you want, if you feel it gives you an advantage, by all means go for it. So how do I think this is advantageous? Easy. If I drop a marble off of here and it bounces off this way, I can probably loosen this light right here. That way I can work on this section, but my stock is really low. So I'm trying to watch that. If I get the ricochet just right, I can bounce it off into there, and I can loosen that light. At least that's what my strategy is. But I need the ricochet. Now I got a good stock here. I can fight it in the usual way. But these higher ones are hard to deal with, I'll tell you. What do you know? Get it back. Back to 55. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, I ran out of marbles. However, I'm not doomed just yet. Well, there's actually freebies available. You remember these marbles down here? Well, anything that's 1, 2, 3, anything that's above the 3, you can take for free only if you are completely out of marbles. So in this case I have an extra 4. I need to focus on this area. So I'm going to continue. Hopefully I don't have to do that too much. See, usually when that happens, that's a bad sign. And speaking of which, that was nice. Stock low. I can still grab this one for free. At least. And what do you know? And I got a big problem now. There's nothing here that's 4 and up. Or wait. This one's barely noticeably above the 3. So in this case, this one can still be taken. But just barely so. I only get one more, and yeah, I still got another freebie, so I guess I can keep going. Whew. Yeah, when your stock gets down to like 5 or less, consider that a warning that you need to focus on getting more. I'm going to forget the pink ones for now and focus on trying to loosen something else. And what do you know? And again, it happens. You know what this means? Well, this one's noticeably above. Because you got the 2 here. And this one's actually a little, not quite offset all the way. So in this case, but it's also about the same height as those. It has to be noticeably above the 3 mark. Let's see, where's my ruler at? I saw my ruler around here somewhere. There it is. Basically, the threshold is about 2 inches. Anything above the 2-inch mark you should be able to take. So if you have any doubts, feel free to use the ruler to verify. It has to touch a little above the 2 in order for it to be counted. But in this case, I don't have anything. You might be thinking, uh-oh, game over. Actually, it's not quite game over. It's close, however. So, what do? Well, in this case, it depends on your difficulty. If you have very easy difficulty, you can actually, well, for anything except the hardest, you can actually use these in an attempt to gain some. If you have very easy or easy, you have 2 of these available. For medium, you have just 1 available. And for hard, you have 1 available with a catch. That is, you have to pay 1 light to use it, and you only ever get to use it once in the entire game. And for the most difficult, you don't get any at all. You don't get any at all. I'm actually doing medium difficulty, which means I can actually use 1 of these. It don't make a difference which one it is, but I can only use 1. So, I gotta find a spot that's good. The ultimate task is to either knock some out right here, which I could probably do. I could also go over here and try to knock them out. But again, just so you know, you can only use these once, ever. They're your rescue balls, basically, as I call them. So do I shoot it right here and try to get these out of the way? Or do I shoot it over here and try to knock some of these out? Because if this doesn't work, well, then I'm really in trouble. But I'm leaning toward this. So, I get 3. This can stay, though, but you'll have to knock it out somehow or another. So consider yourself warned. Hey, you get another shot, and that's it. No more. I cannot use it again. Interesting. I get to use them, get rid of another light. So what should I do here? Go after the pinks? Go after something else? Or what? Yeah, that wasn't really too good. Well, in this case, since I used these 2 over here, that means I have to use these lights in order to buy more. And the very easy difficulty, you can take one of these lights will buy you 2 marbles. For easy, 1 light will buy you 1 marble. For medium, and which is what I'm doing, I'd have to use 2 lights to buy 1 marble. Hard would be 4, very hard would be 8. Note that it's based on powers of 2. But unlike before, where I just placed that 1 light that was right here, you have to place them in a way that it plugs up various holes and stuff, giving you a disadvantage. Now, let's see. This one I won't be able to be accessed, so it has to be something that gives you a disadvantage of any sort. Like this light's pretty loose, so yeah, this one would make more sense. So I can't really get that out. Now, I paid the debt. Guess what? I could buy 1 marble, and that's it. So, how am I going to deal with this situation? Because I'm getting pretty close to a game over here. That was good. Loosen that helps a lot. But yeah, that's what you need to do. Good, I got rid of you. And it don't look like I got anything loose here. So, I lose 2 more lights. Let's see, this cage is now plugged. Plugging up cages is the first thing you must do. Plugging up other areas that gives a disadvantage. Only once you let go of the light does it confirm that you cannot take it out again. Unless, of course, it's in an invalid spot that doesn't qualify. Yep, that's what I'm going to do. I buy a marble, and it has to be one at the very highest point. Only. And again, it doesn't work. Wouldn't you know it? But then again, I noticed something here. This one's noticeably above the 3. I can take this one without penalty. Why didn't I notice that one earlier? This one's at a 4, so that's perfectly fine. That was nice. Oh well, back to the game. Come on, almost. Come on, almost. That was interesting. That was a bunch. Come on. You're so close. Come on. Come on. You're trying. Oh, switch through. All done. And exactly 128. What do you know? 207ths. Well, there's no more marbles up here. That means I win. This round is done. So, is there any scoring? Technically, no. But you could consider it this way. 1 point for every light, 2 points for every leftover in your stock here. So that's 5, that's 10, 15, I got 21 in my stock, so 42. It's 170 points in a sense. Use these, but so that's basically how you play marbles lights out. So what do you think? Fun? Tempted to play now? Well, that otherwise concludes this video. The parts and accessories were not created by me. This video and this game were created by Ulillillia. Thank you for watching.